program is named the President Youth Award, and you walk for an award, but we focus or tell the young persons not to focus on the award. Is the personal achievement. When you would have completed the program with or without the bird, you have become better. And that is the goal. So whether the program received the Medal of Service or not is the impact it's making on young person's life. Because many of them, you see, is the personal testimony. So whether the program would have received the Medal of Service from the president or not, we would still feel fulfilled of the testimonies from the young persons to say, if it had not been for that safe space that PYARG has provided for me, I would have been in prison. I would have been doing this crime. But because of the activity, because of the non-judgmental, non-discriminatory atmosphere that PYARG has provided for me, I am better today. Whether or not I'm a guard, whether or not I change tire, I am not in prison. I am a meaningful, contributing citizen of Guyana. And I would have seen a different part. I would have learned another skill. I am a better human being to my country because of this program. And that means to us at PYARG more than any Medal of Service. It has its place. I'm not big on trophies. That's me personally. I am big on changing lives. Meet one, touch one, change one.
Change one. Are you, or I should say, are there plans, if you see the need to, because you did say that it is the best kept secret, in terms of maybe a public relations strategy input, is there a need to do that, to put more of the PYARG out there?
I would say yes, because I'm only there for approximately 3 years. And if you have next year will be our 20th anniversary. And even though we have thousands upon thousands of young people that have passed through and benefited from the program, there's still yet so many untouched. And those are the ones that I'm passionate about because of cost. And we are so grateful for whomever government is in place that they fund the transportational costs for us to get to the interland regions. And many times, too many things are centralized. It's in Georgetown, it's on the coast, that narrow strip of coast that Guyana so proudly boasts. But we have the indigenous, we have the interior. But it's so costly to travel, to meet those that are not accessible easily. So that is my vision, my passion, that we will be able to have equal rights, equal accessibility to all those who so desire to be involved in such a program. Because, for example, the communication ability in Region 8 is not of such that's like throughout the country. So to have the program in Region 8, Paramakatoy, is the devil's own job. But that is one of our passion, to have it up and running and very functional. You have many starts, but it's the sustainability in those regions where communication and the cost just to visit, it is so high. So that is basically just to have the program accessible and have proper training and have proper programming skills and community service and proper sporting facilities in those regions that the people in Georgetown are exposed to. I mean, this thing takes time.
Yes.
But unless you start to think about it.
And talk about it, consultations.
And talk about it, yes. It wouldn't happen. Because with politicians and with economists, it's all about numbers and money. How many persons are there? Well, it's not feasible. But yet, a generation is lost.
Indeed, unfortunately, again, another thing I always hear, the older politician says somebody's got to be the sacrificial lamb. Unfortunately, and I am so very guilty of picking it up and possibly making that statement my own. That's unfortunate. I want to
collateral damage.
Yeah. Oh, that is even worse. You've been seen doing some motivational speaking, whether it be in schools, Guyana Police Force. Is this outside of the PYARG, or is this Allister of himself, or is it all part of what you do in terms of PYARG?
To put it politically correct,
Okay.
PYARG is so diverse. Anything you do can be PYARG because there's a skill, there's a community service aspect to it. There's physical record, there's an adventurous journey. There's any program that PYARG complements. So even if you're talking to young persons, and I don't like to motivate, because motivation is just for a time. We rather inspire. Because it's as simple as breathing in air. And it propels you to do better. At the end of the day, you're challenging young persons everywhere to just do better. Because one of the things my mom, and I think that she was a perfectionist, even though you might get 98%, even though you may bring first in the class, because you're competing, and that's something I learned from Miles Monroe. That's the curse of comparison. I compete against you, but you might not be on my level. I might be in second form, or you might be in first form.
Yeah, it's actually
but I'm
unfair.
competing against somebody not on my level. I'm not saying I'm better than you, but the Lord has blessed me with a gift that I'm underutilizing. But because of the curse of comparison, I am underperforming, and I'm saying that I am great. But what happens? I am rewarded for it because society say he is better than her. Because of the competition, I am better than her, and I relax. But there's so much more that I can do, and that's why PYARG is such a model program. It allows you to beat or to better your best. So if I'm at this level, that's why I say your last success is the enemy to your future success.
You keep dwelling. I'm assuming this is what you mean. You keep
Yes,
dwelling.
you dwell. Oh, I just acquired this. I just accomplished this. I have arrived.
And you take your eyes off of exactly what
Of
is
the
in
next
front.
step. And all you did was just to step on another treadle. You just arrived here, but there's so many other levels to go. And that's what I love about the program. After the silver, after the bronze, there's the silver. After the silver, there's the gold. And after the gold, you go back to leadership, where you give back.
You service.
You serve. All of us cannot be famous. All of us cannot be great. But all of us can serve. If you want to be great, and this is Martin Luther King, he said, greatness is a measure of service. So if you serve, and if you increase your capacity to serve, that's the greater you become. But none of us wants to serve. All of us wants to be served. And that's where the problem is.
So in terms of most times when we see you out being a motivational speaker, you see it as you serving, giving back.
Your gift.
So were you a part, even before being executive officer, were you a part of the PYARG?
No, I wasn't. That's why it's the best kept secret.
But
But now I am involved, and I think it's such a model program that needs to get out there, because it doesn't take you away from anything you are in. If you're in a church program, you're in Lions, you're in Rotaract, you're in whatever program, you can be a part of, or whatever organization. There's a difference. You can be a part, or you can do the program to better you, better define who you are. It's all about being a better person. You can look at a rock, you can look at a diamond, but the value of that diamond is how polished it is. And that's all life is. You pay more for the better polish the diamond is. So when you would have defined and polished your skills, and you're ready to serve it, to serve it to society and serve it to humanity, that is how you add value to your peers, to life, to humanity, to your time.
Viewers, I have to tell you, I don't feel as though we're having a television conversation here. I feel like I am in an audience, and he's motivationally speaking, and again, to use the word he prefers, which is inspire. Of course, I have to begin to wrap up with you soon,
Sure.
Alistair, but I cannot possibly have you on this program, and in this case, you could take as long as you want, because there's so much happening, and this is outside of PYARG. People say our youths are in crisis. Unfortunately, we're seeing so many things. We see young people at a very, very tender age. I'm not saying that getting involved in criminal activities at an adult age it's okay, but I'm speaking specifically to young people now. We see young people, they're getting involved in criminal activities. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, we had Anne Green, that is the head of the Child Care and Protection Agency, on this program, talking about how the family needs to get more involved in terms of protecting the children. So apart from criminal activities, we see them being raped, we see them being murdered, neglected. What would you want to see happen for our young people to provide more guidance? And this is not necessarily coming from PYARG, whether you want to call on the church, whether you want to call on non-governmental organizations, whether you want to call on the government. What is your actual vision for Guyanese young people as a whole, even those who are not necessarily involved in PYARG or even other programs like PYARG?
One of the biggest issues that we face in Guyana is not a financial issue. It's not even a racial issue. It's an ideological issue. We have the philosophy, the ideology that I am better than you. And once that ideology prevails, there will be bigotry, there will be hatred. So we, as a people, have to first, as Michael Jackson would say, start with the man in the mirror. Because ever so often, and from the age of children, we always like to blame, it's because mommy wasn't there, it's because daddy wasn't there, it's because this party was in power. It's always an external problem that caused the issue. It's never, maybe I should have done this or that differently. And I think sometimes we need to look within, because we are so packaged. And I put it this way: the earth is so designed that everything, the life force, is placed within a seed. That mango tree that you see, everything, its roots, its bark, its fruits, its leaves are in that one seed. Aren't you more? So when you place, if you leave that mango seed on this table, it would not germinate, nothing would happen to it. But you put that in the right atmosphere, the right environment, you'll be surprised what becomes of that mango seed. It would no longer remain a seed. It will germinate. You take that same littering Guyanese and put them in a clean, developed
But that
country.
happens, yeah.
And you see that same littering Guyanese who don't appreciate a clean environment stop littering literally overnight. You take that same child who came from a racist environment and put them among other people who see them, how they want to treat someone else. And you see how that hatred melts because they're being treated how they want to treat someone else.
Yes.
So all these things that we learn, we can unlearn. So many times it's the ideology that we have to, because you would kill Saddam Hussein, you would kill Bin Laden and think you're killing the idea of terrorism, but then there's ISIS. You want to get rid of this part or get rid of that part and think you're killing or solving, or you have what we call change. But we have to look within ourselves.
Which comes back to looking in the mirror.
That's right. And that's why at let's bring it back to PYARG.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the individual effort. And then individually, it becomes collectively. That's why one of the mistake or misconception is that's in the Bible, it's clear. The two shall become one. But we always say, my better half. And that is why we have problems, because it's always half people. But the Lord said a whole person, the two, one man and one woman, can become one. But people want a better half. So it's
if
all
you're like
about
me, you say your other half.
the other half. But it's one. You have to be whole. And for a successful relationship, you have to be single. You have to be one. You have to know you. And most of us don't spend time with us. We don't even know what we like. If somebody asks you, what drink you want? Anything. And when they bring anything, you don't want that one.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. And, indeed, it is, to be fair to Guyanese who are doing everyday things. And life has become about, especially, and you talked about being exposed, being raised by a single mother. So was I. Life for a single mother becomes about, I would love to spend time with my children. I would love to impart certain values, some of the things that you've said. I'm sure a father would like to sit and say that to his son, or a mother would like to sit and say that to her daughter. But life has become about providing. So some people work 2-3 jobs, and it's what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but I think as a community, we're going to need to do much more to get to the point where that can actually happen. But the things that you've said today are certainly, I know it's an inspiration to many people out there, and especially to young people. And I trust that you know that you have a lot of persons who are inspired by and who you serve as a role model to yourself, and that. Well, I'm talking about the whole you now, but I'm still going to touch on your brother. But both of you, you're inspiring to a lot of young men. And congratulations, and keep it up.
Thank you.
And thank you so very much for coming on Facing the Nation
today.
My
pleasure.
All right, great. Viewers, if you're now tuning in, you've missed a great one, but not to worry. Those of you who follow me on social media, you know you can usually get the conversation as soon as it's done here. You can get it on YouTube or even on Facebook. But unfortunately, that wouldn't happen today because of some difficulties. We will have it up and running by Monday. So if you've missed the conversation, not to worry. You'll certainly be able to catch up. Of course, this would have been a conversation with the Executive Officer, Allister Collins, and he's the Executive Officer of the PYARG, and PYARG is the President's Youth Award, Republic of Guyana. I'll take a quick break. On the other side of the break, it will be time to wrap up today's program. This is Facing the Nation. Viewers, thank you so very much for staying tuned. That was, I know you've grown accustomed to having two conversations or two features for you, but today we have had one very lengthy conversation, and I thought it was very necessary. And for the young persons who are watching, I trust that Allister Collins will serve as an inspiration for you. He got really deep, some of the things that he's saying really deep, and it seems as though they cannot necessarily be achieved. But if we change the way we think, indeed, you change your mindset, some of those things can, very well be achieved. So I wish him and the PYARG all of the best. He did remind you that the 20th anniversary for the PYARG is going to be celebrated next year. So hopefully we're going to be seeing some more PR coming from them, information that we can get and so on. And I trust that, it will encourage young people to be a part of that, especially those of you who are not a part of any extracurricular activities. Those are very important. He even talked about, the fact that the PYARG, it is good to put your energies into something different. We have so many angry young people walking around, and you're so angry and the energies are so pent up that the minute anyone says anything that you think is offensive or does anything, logic goes out the window. It's easy for people to pick up an object and be violent, and then you combine that with the abuse of alcohol in society. Only last week I was talking about this, and I was talking about the contributions, the unfortunate contributions that the abusive nature of alcohol makes to traffic accidents and so on. And and that is a whole other issue that I'll touch on in a bit before we wrap up. But in terms of focusing on young people, it is really very important to try to distract them a bit. And any chance you get, talk to a young person. It doesn't have to be your daughter, your son, your niece, nephew, uncle, a cousin, whatever. Any chance you get, try to talk to a young person. You never know, you might be saving a life. Because in the last, and this is not happening now, this has been happening for years. We've always heard of these stories whereby maybe a young man or two young men, they go on, and this is not even talking about only young now, we're talking about people in general. You always hear these stories where, the two men were imbibing and they got into an argument and one struck the other one with a piece of wood and killed him or stabbed him, or somebody left and went home for a cutlass. I am saying those things happen because unfortunately people don't know how to deal with anger. People throw logic out the window and you just go and you rush and you do these things and you're not thinking about the consequences. You harm somebody, they might die, or you might damage them for life and you will go to jail. So I guess this is not only about young people, but as a society, we need to try to talk each other. Find things to do with your energies that seem to be pent up, and that too will contribute to a safe nation. So the other matter that I touched on a bit earlier, last week, right before we wrap up Facing the Nation, of course, I know some persons are still in the Diwali celebration mood. Of course, unfortunately, we have a situation where in our country we seem to be having 2 days of it, but that is another issue. But I warned people about using these festivals and using these holidays that are supposed to be sacred. People are using them to imbibe, and to go over the alcohol limit and to abuse alcohol. I don't understand. Why do you have to consume alcohol to the point whereby you cannot stand or your words are slurred? Have you ever asked someone to video you when you're in that state and see how disgusting it looks? And the unfortunate thing is that you keep endangering the lives of others. And apart from alcohol, there is the issue of speeding. And it's unfortunate that I have to bring up the 5 persons who died last Sunday. That was a horrible, no accident. People say, yes, it's just a fender bender, but that was a horrible accident. You're talking about limbs being scattered across our roadways. And the saddest part of all of this is that we have no respect for each other. We have no respect for families. We think it is okay to video these kinds of things or take photographs of these things, and we just plaster it out there on social media, on Facebook. Why? Because you either have a smartphone or you have a keyboard and you have a screen in front of you. So it's very easy for you to put that out. Are you thinking that these people have families, they have relatives and friends who have feelings? That is morally wrong. I've had an argument with someone who said, if you put the photos up, the graphic photos and the graphic scenes and the blood and the body parts and so on, it will deter people from speeding. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. That accident happened on Sunday and you had another one the day after that and another one the day after that, all as a result of speeding. So you posting photos of dismembered bodies scattered across our roadways, you posting those on social media are not deterring people from speeding. People need to start to look into themselves. Think, understand the detriment. And I spoke about this on social media earlier in the week too. How can you sit in a vehicle and the driver is acting as though he's on, I don't know, the circuit or something, and you sit there comfortably and you're not saying. And this has nothing to do with only minibuses alone. Minibuses do it, private vehicles do it, and taxi drivers do it also. It is no, we no longer can say, oh, well, it's the minibus's fault. No, it's not only the public transportation. You know, every now and again, somebody who owns a vehicle thinks it's okay to just speed through. And again, you have passengers in the vehicle. I'm not saying it's okay to do it when you're alone, when you're just driving and you're alone in the vehicle. I'm not saying it's okay to do it then, but I'm saying I think you would want to exercise a little more care and a little more caution when you have the lives of people in your hands. Because when you're the driver and there are other passengers in the vehicle, you basically have their lives in your hand, especially if you're going to be, you know, irresponsible and all over the place. So I know I sound as though I'm preaching today, but some of these things that we continue to see in society is very upsetting. And the most upsetting thing about it is that we are not learning from our mistake. We continue to do the same things over and over again and get what result. And the most unfortunate thing about the accident too, the other unfortunate thing I should say, you have a group of persons on Facebook who are seriously holding on to, oh, a pothole caused the accident. Were you not speeding, that accident would not have been that horrific, even if you got into an accident. You cannot blame the pothole for that. Guyanese need to slow down on our roadways, plain and simple. People may argue and say, oh, she's protecting the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. It has nothing to do with that. You have to slow down. Guyanese need to take more care, have more respect for their lives and this body that God has gifted us. I don't know how much of me preaching for the last few minutes would sink into some of you and help you indeed to slow down, but I trust that some of the words did reach some of you. Unfortunately, that has brought me to the end of today's program. I'd like to take this opportunity once again to thank very much Mr. Allister Collins from the PYARG, and again, congratulations to them and all other youth groups and non-governmental organizations and governmental organizations that are doing what they can to help to mold and develop the youths of Guyana. This has been Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thanks for joining us. Of course, be good Guyanese, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Goodbye.